All right. Hey everyone. Long time no yap. My vacation was great, and the week getting back into work was scuffed as hell. I had internet issues and other tech issues all week. I made it through that week, and now I have to go back. I'm not excited. But, unrelated to the vacation, bank account is looking pretty bad, just because I put a lot in savings, and then I also got a new phone. So, I'm kind of fighting for my life right now, and I'm persevering until my next full hour's paycheck. So for now, let's just think about other things. So first off, I want to say I have been playing RuneScape again. The Tombs of Mascot is still fun, and while I was gone, I think, or the week before maybe, they did put through some changes that have made it have a bit more quality of life in some spots. The big thing I like is that gems are a lot more accessible now, which feels good. I got to use a blue gem in a raid today, and it definitely made Caffrey feel good. That's about all I could say. Anyways, I'm not very good at RuneScape, but I am going to use it as a background video, so I don't have to do pretty much any work. So, I guess starting off, I had a great time on vacation. I got to spend time with Bunny again, and I got to meet like 6 other friends in person for the first time. And 2 of them I hadn't even talked to directly beforehand. But I feel like it was a great time getting to meet everyone, and still in a great mood about it. I'm hoping I could do another big vacation like this sometime in the future. I'm not sure if it's really going to be a super consistent thing for me, because it depends on where life is, all that. But it was a lot of fun. I ended up making a little document right after getting home, just trying to think through, like, oh, what should I do if I go on another trip like this with a group of people? And a lot of what I came up with that was just way too personal put into, like, a funny little vlog video like this. But the big things are like, oh yeah, I want to learn to swim better next time I go out on a body of water. Water? Body of water? Because the big thing was, I had this one scary moment where I jumped off the boat into the lake. And it's a pretty small boat, so I think when I jumped off, I took like a really horizontal angle. And by the time I like surfaced from like my dip underwater, I was like, I don't know, 30 feet from the boat. And as somebody who doesn't swim a lot, that was enough to freak me the hell out. I'm gonna be honest, I wasn't that scared at the time, but the thing was that, like, I started trying to swim, and it didn't feel like I was making any headway back towards the boat, and that's where I started freaking out, as I started getting tired from swimming and not making progress. But I did survive. I did survive. The big problem was, I got so far away from the boat so fast, and also the life jacket I had on immediately flew off me. It was not secured properly. I don't know if it was an issue with my securing of it, or if it was an issue with the life jacket strap in general, because I pretty much just like wrapped it around itself and tried to snap it in a way that would, at least to the best of my understanding, not like choke me like a knot would if it slipped in a bad way, but at least be on there. But it came off, and I did skill issue myself basically with not being able to swim good enough for that. I think it really made me just think, like, there were times while I was out there where I was really aware of what I should do theoretically for swimming, but I just don't have the mechanical skill. It's a lot like, I feel like after taking a sedentary job, and honestly just leading a sedentary lifestyle in general, I have felt a marked difference in sort of my general physical ability after starting to exercise regularly again. And as a former exercise nerd, I was like really not surprised by this, but I was surprised by the extent it came up for me, if that makes sense, where there was like a deterioration of my physical ability that I wasn't conscious of, even though in hindsight I should have been. But that's how it goes with gradual processes. So with regards to that, I'm definitely happy I started exercising again before this trip. Otherwise, that could have been way scarier, I bet. So I felt like I did my due diligence there. And the other big thing was that I'm just like, I wonder if there's swim classes in my area I could go to. Like, how do you even practice swimming? Like, as an adult, it feels surreal to me because, like, I live in a very middle of nowhere area, and I'm like, what do I even do to follow up on this? So that'll be something I have to look into more. Um, Thankfully, as opposed to being at a lake house, I think a lot of the other locations for trips I plan on going on are a bit less water centric. So it's not quite urgent, but it is still something I'm very interested in. So I'd say, other than that, the big thing I want to actually discuss and not just keep to myself is that packing clothing for trips is difficult. I ended up realizing that I overpacked the wrong things. Where I had a few pieces of clothing that I really liked for sort of the vibe and the weather, and I had a few pieces of clothing I'm like, I don't really want to be wearing these here or like out in public. It's like I basically brought too much like loungewear type stuff that I would wear at home, as opposed to stuff that is like comfortable but I would also wear in public, if that makes sense. Um, it's not really a huge deal, but it's it's something I'm definitely conscious of because there are a lot of times where at home I will just kind of be very schlubby. And I want to break out of that a bit more. I want to also just like I think I'm at a point where I want to refresh a lot of my home wardrobe as well, because I have a lot of like cozy clothes I've been wearing for a few years, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I also feel like me and my tastes have changed a lot in the last few years, and there are some things I definitely want to keep wearing consistently, and then there are other things that I should probably donate at this point. So that's something I'm gonna have to look into, doing that, and then also getting new clothes, because having a smaller wardrobe good, but I live in a very seasonal area, so I basically do still permanently need clothing for different temperatures. But that's one other thing I'm going to improve on. First off was swimming, second was clothing and like sort of just like packing considerations in general, let's say. Because one goofy thing was that I drove up with a friend. We went all the way up to the lake house, and a lot of other friends were flying in. So I was like, okay, I'll definitely bring toiletries. And the thing was, with a one bathroom setup, multiple people had already brought everything we needed. So I felt like, oh damn, I used the space in my pack for nothing. now my luggage weighs like twice as much as it would have if it was just clothes and like my electronics and everything put in there. So I felt really goofy, but not in like a very bad way. So other than that, those are the three big takeaways that I do want to share in public. I have a bit more private consideration as well, but the big thing is just that taking a vacation for the first time in ages is good. For me, it's like I have spent a lot of time unemployed, so a vacation has a different value to me, where it's like in my head the time is easy and the money is hard, like that sort of thing, where it's like I don't know how to put it. But it's like having travel while keeping the job is like the first time I've had that in a while. Because even the last time I flew was in, I believe, 2023. And that was right after I left the job I had at the time. And I'm basically just not used to traveling and coming home and having to work again. So this did a bit of a number on my mindset. But I think that it genuinely wasn't as bad as I expected. The bad part was I had a lot of technical issues at work, and that made it so I couldn't just get into a normal flow. So I'm hoping this week will let me just shut my brain all the way off, and I'll be at peace, and I will just have an easy time. So I'm staying optimistic right now about work, now that I'm back from vacation. But staying sort of on my usual like media topics, just because I feel like I always talk about media. I don't really have a lot of deeper topics that I really talk about, I guess. Anyways, outside of that moment of introspection, I ended up starting reading a classic novel I've been interested in for ages, and I'm gonna mispronounce the heck out of this. Anna Karenina, Anna Karenina, Anna Karenina, Anna Karenina. That sounds it. I think I got it. It's like I swear to God, I pronounced it correctly before. I just can't do it off the top of my head. But I don't have a lot to say about it, but it absolutely bodies a lot of the writing I have read recently. To me, it's just like there is... and the tricky thing is, I want to say that there's this sense of flavor or personality that comes through, and I don't want to say that as though it's an objective opinion. I believe part of why I'm saying this is definitely because of the perception of Russian novels I already have, and what I've heard specifically about Anna Karenina. Karenina, Anna K. So, the big thing for me was that I do feel like there was a depth of, like, character that a lot of what I read, which tends to be a lot of modern, like, contemporary 2025-ish works that are generally not given the same level of thought as a published novel in 1880. I think it was 1860 is closer. In that time period was not that everything was highbrow, but I do feel like there was this thing where, just due to my own limited education on the topic, I do just associate like this Russian, I think I've heard it called the Russian realist or something like that. This genre of author and writing, I'm just like, I feel like maybe I'm putting it on a pedestal, and I'm a bit scared of doing it that way. I don't think the classics should be revered because they're classics. I think they should be revered because of what you get out of them. So it's hard for me to like figure out if all of my feeling is like purely from the text or if some of it is from like the reputation, because I am definitely a hype seeker type of person a lot of times, where if I have a friend who's into something, that will be enough for me to like get into something. So maybe I'm just following the fucking tail of the literature canon or whatever. But I'm really happy I did pick up Anna Karenina, and I don't have a lot to say about it other than what I've just said because I got caught on a tangent and like self-doubt. But I'm really glad that this one is the novel I decided to pick up for this. Not for this trip because I'm still reading it. It's too long to have read on the trip. But I'm glad I picked it up and that it's something I'm continuing to work through. I feel like I haven't gone through any classic literature in ages, and even just native English novels in general have been a while for me. When I was a kid, I read a lot. I was reading stuff online. I was reading stuff that my parents would get me. I was reading just all sorts of things. Anything I could find, really. I loved fantasy books. I loved sci-fi books. I just loved anything that could sell me on what was going on. So a lot of stuff about like intricacies of society didn't really get me. Because I was a kind of awkward kid. I didn't really get into it at that level. But I think that I'm just really happy to be reading something that feels like not necessarily challenging. I don't think this novel has been challenging me. I think it's just been taking me along in a way that I really like. And maybe there are other novels that are more challenging in the sort of classical canon or whatever, the literature canon. I don't know what people call it. I left academia for a reason, before I even was technically really in it. But the reason is not related to me not knowing those terms, to be clear. So the big thing is that I'm just happy I read it. I also tried reading some of Emily Dickinson's poetry. The thing for me is that I never really had a strong basis in poetry at all. I remember at one point for, I believe it was a English literature class I had in my freshman year of college, I ended up having one assignment where we all had to memorize and recite a poem in front of the class. And at the time, I honestly could not think of many poems in general. There were ones I had read for school, but I do remember at the time I did read like, I believe it was a poem Tolkien wrote for Lord of the Rings. The all that is gold does not glitter, or whatever. Hold up. I'm gonna see if I could recite it from memory first before I search for it. It was something like, all that is gold that does not glitter. All those who wander are not lost. Not all those who wander are lost. Something, something, something. Deep roots are not reached by the frost. That's all I can remember of it. But for me, I feel like I don't have enough of a backing for poetry as opposed to prose. I don't know how to put this, but prose, I feel I end up parsing much more naturally than I ever did poetry. So I kind of kept gravitating toward it, and now it's sort of that positive feedback loop where I continue to read prose and not poetry, and so I never really developed a real taste for poetry. But I still think poetry is neat, and I think it would be fun to learn more about it. I feel like I almost want like a poetry class or something, because in the, how do I put this? In the prologue of this collection of Emily Dickinson's work, they describe a lot of what makes her interesting to them as a poet. Stuff where she took on norms, stuff where she broke away from norms. And I remember hearing her work in school and finding, oh, I do really like this poem. But the thing is, I don't really have the basis for understanding her in the context of culture. And I know I'm not the most well-read person. Like, even though I've read a lot of fantasy and sci-fi and just fiction in general, the big thing for me is that I feel like I have enough reading to just kind of like intuit a lot of things, especially at times where like an author has like a clear reference to an older author that I've already read. It's like I have that basis from authors of the last like 40 or 50 years. A lot of older ones I don't have that basis in, I'm sorry. Probably the earliest stuff that I've read like a remote amount is like in the 70s as far as like most fiction. A lot of the older stuff is old school assignments, if I'm being frank. And the big thing for me is just that I feel like I want to understand poetry better, but it's like you've got to just dive in somewhere, but it feels weird having to choose where you dive yourself as a newbie. So, I guess the thing in short is similar to how I feel about a lot of things where I'm I'm going to be honest, I probably have more of a basis in art history thanks to an art history class I've taken that I feel like I worked pretty hard to keep up with at the time. Um, and for what little it's worth, I am currently studying a set of flashcards about like famous works of art. And I'm trying to just keep a little bit of the surface level information in mind at least. Because even if I don't know all of the information about a work of art, I feel like a surface level understanding is sort of the basis of any deeper understanding. And probably more importantly for me, socially having a surface level understanding of things is enough to like start a conversation. It doesn't necessarily carry it if you don't have anything else to talk about. But if you do encounter somebody who knows more about something and for whatever reason it does come up, there are times where you could take something a bit farther. So I think learning about a bunch of different things is really fun. I think that has been consistent for me for a while. The big trouble for me is when I try to dive into something blind at a random point, just whatever point I end up at. Say like with poetry, diving into reading Emily Dickinson, it's hard for me to tell if I'm diving in at a good point, if that makes sense. I don't know if there's rocks down there. I don't know anything. Um, I don't know if I'm gonna like that water. So that's kind of where I'm at, and I'm like, I don't know what I would read other than Emily Dickinson as far as poetry, because I can't strongly remember any poetry that has affected me in a big way from like my time in school. That leaves me feeling pretty aimless, and I don't mean that in a really bad way. I just mean like it's crazy getting into something you know nothing about, and it's kind of really fun watching as like you kind of get more of a foothold over time, but that doesn't make the first bit less intimidating or like easier water to tread, I guess, with the still water analogy after my bad swimming incident. But I already went way off what I planned to talk about. I pretty much just went on a ton of tangents here, and I'm gonna be honest, I have this weird thing in the back of my throat where like the base of my tongue on the left side is really sore. So I'm gonna cut it off there. So even with all the trouble, the week back flew by. Um, I I still feel like I'm on vacation somehow. Like in my head, I don't feel like I'm a normal person again yet. But getting out of my usual day-to-day life does this to me all the time. Whether it's for something like travel or even more small things, really. When like a routine is broken, I'm definitely the sort of person to get a little bit lost for a while. So I'm always happy to break out of that cycle because I think that one thing is that with life, if you are always in a routine, there are times where parts of it could become not what you want. And having these times to break out of it and break back in really kind of helped me reevaluate what's important and what I want to do. Um, like I came back and I got back onto studying I wanted to do and researching for projects I want to do. I have a lot of stuff I want to learn about sewing right now because of alterations I want to make to some clothing that I bought in the wrong size or that just have different fit issues that I want to correct. So I think that it's exciting to be alive. And I'm just happy I get a chance to even have these thoughts. Um, I feel like when I think about it a lot, there are a lot of places where the world is not conducive to having any of these like lighthearted thoughts or worries or just these small things to focus on instead of big things all of the time. So, right now, at least in this moment, I'm feeling really happy to be back to normal. I really liked how it was on vacation. And, of course, I'm always happy to be around Bunny. But I'm just happy to do the things that I choose to do 24/7 again. That's one of the good things about sort of how I go about things. It's like the structure is good for a break from the norm, but then there's like the different structure you have at home, and I'm just really I'm mentally I'm pretty clocked out, but I'm happy to be back. So, going forward, I should have a lot more focused stuff to talk about. I have not watched any anime other than 3 episodes of Symphogear and an episode of Dandadan. So I have watched anime since I've been back, actually. I forgot about it. Ask me next week. Let's all have a good week.